She is a digital marketing specialist who can spin the meanest website around.
And he's host of the TV show Buzz, which features nonprofit organizations receiving marketing makeovers.
Here on Buzz4Good, we talk all things nonprofit, the people they serve and the good they do.
And we talk to creative professionals and provide marketing tips and tools to help your nonprofit achieve more.
That's right.
Buzz!
All right. Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to Buzz4Good. This is our radio and TV show simulcast that we are presenting thanks to our partners at WFIR Talk Radio and Blue Ridge PBS. Here on Buzz4Good, we talk all things nonprofit in Southwest Virginia. And along the way, we're going to provide some marketing tips and tools to help your nonprofit attract more donors, volunteers, and clients to your cause.
Last week was our premiere episode, but allow us one more time to introduce ourselves. I'm Carrie Cousins. I'm the Director of Digital Marketing at Lead Point Digital in Roanoke, Virginia, and the President of AAF Roanoke.
And AAF Roanoke is the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke, a membership-based organization of the region's best and brightest
marketing and creative pros.
There you go. And I am Michael Hemphill, creator and host of the TV show Buzz that airs on Blue Ridge PBS. Each episode we feature a nonprofit organization and partner that nonprofit with a team of creative marketing professionals to help the nonprofit get more buzz. We just kicked off season 2 of Buzz in September on Blue Ridge PBS, and you can watch all of our episodes on our website, buzz4good.com. That's buzz4good.com, as well as on our YouTube channel. And you can follow along on our social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter at Buzz4Good.
That's a perfect lead-in because on today's show, we're actually going to be talking about social media advertising and how to make a big impact with a small budget.
We are also going to preview some upcoming and awesome fundraising events benefiting various nonprofits in our communities and give you ways on how you can support them.
We'll also look back at last week's episode on how to build the best website for your nonprofit and follow up with our friends from the Southwest Virginia Ballet. They were featured in episode 1, season 1 of Buzz, and we went through their website challenges.
We, especially you, went through their website challenges. We talked about that last week's episode, and so look forward to catching up with them. Meanwhile, I'm going to be continuing my conversation from last week's episode with Abby Hamilton, Executive Director of the United Way of the Roanoke Valley, as she shares more insights into the challenges facing our community and how nonprofits are not only stepping in, but stepping up to help.
And I'll share my latest no-budget marketing tip of the week.
Fantastic. So we've got a lot to get to in today's show, but we're going to start off with our segment on nonprofit news by sending some congratulations to one of the newest nonprofits in our region, and that is Cardinal News. Cardinal News is a new online newspaper founded by some really exceptionally talented former newspaper reporters and editors at the Roanoke Times. It's a team of veteran journalists, and they are just started publishing a couple of weeks ago original news stories on Southwest Virginia and Southside Virginia on politics, the economy, culture. And what makes Cardinal News interesting for our purposes is that it is actually a nonprofit. And that's really kind of a growing trend in journalism across the country, our news channels going online and becoming nonprofits. So you can find out more about them at cardinalnews.org. That's cardinal, like the bird, news.org.
And it's fun to see something like that happening with our shared background in the news media.
That's right, that's right. So Carrie and I, we worked at the Roanoke Times way back in
a long time ago.
Okay, right. We were at the Roanoke Times together. We did not work together because at that time Carrie was in the New River Valley Bureau of the Roanoke Times and I was in the Roanoke office. But so many people I find in areas of leadership, communications for Virginia Tech and Carilion and across the region have their roots at the Roanoke Times, which is kind of cool.
There's a lot of shared history there, right? What I always tell people is if you can communicate anywhere, and that foundation really is in good communication.
Yeah, so cardinalnews.org. Carrie, what else we got?
Going from one of the newest nonprofits in the region, we'll actually talk about one of the most established. Mill Mountain Theater is currently presenting live performances of Legally Blonde, the musical, through October 17th. You can find more at millmountain.org.
One of my favorite movies. I have not seen it on stage before. So.
Me either. I'm totally looking forward to it.
It's going to be good. We also mentioned last week Hallowheels, which is an online fundraising contest by Children's Assistive Technology Service. They're one of the nonprofits that we featured in September on Buzz, the TV show. So I want you to mark your calendars for October 31st, which obviously is Halloween, but it's also the kickoff of Hallowheels. And we're going to talk more about that on an upcoming episode of this show. But if you want to find out more about Hallowheels, we'd invite you to go back to last week's Buzz4Good episode, which you can find on our YouTube channel or on our podcast, and find out more about Hallowheels. But yeah, we are going to have one of their nonprofit leaders next week on the show to share more about Hallowheels. Meanwhile, you can go to hallowheels.org. That's Hallow, HALLOWHEELS.org. And lastly, because we are recording inside Center of the Square, which is graciously allowing us to use this space, we want to feature Center's big fundraiser this month that is happening every weekend, Blue Ridge Nightmares. Now, to learn more about this huge fundraiser and how Center of the Square has coordinated the event, not just the construction of a massive haunted house inside an abandoned building in the Roanoke Industrial Park, but also how they're handling sponsorships and marketing the event and ticket sales and on and on and on. Earlier this week, I connected by Zoom with the folks who are responsible for making Blue Ridge Nightmares, wait for it, a dream come true for Center in the Square. So let's check it out. Well, Jim Sears, who is president and general manager of Center in the Square, and Tara Marciniak, who is director of institutional advancement for Center in the Square. I want to thank you both so much for coming on Buzz4Good to talk about Blue Ridge Nightmares, which, based on all the marketing that I've seen for the event, looks like a spectacular event. Let me get started, Jim, with you. And most every nonprofit at some point decides to host the dreaded fundraising event, and it can be dreaded at times, but because the logistics can be challenging if you actually want the event to be a fundraiser, not a fun loser. And then there's also the calculations you're making about as far as how much institutional time and energy is going to go into an event rather than just straight up soliciting people for donations. What inspired Center in the Square to do another big fundraising event?
The same thing that inspired us to do the first large fundraising event, and that's the lack of donations from traditional donors and the changing market in this area for businesses. As you know, businesses have changed, they've merged, they've moved out, some new ones have moved in. So what we saw was a decline in the traditional fundraising methods. So we thought, what works? And then we thought about fundraising events, and you look at a golf tournament, it raises a certain amount of money, but not the kind of money that we needed. So we said, well, what might work? What might raise money? Well, a big event that attracts many people.
Right.
So the first big event that we started or did was Illuminates, and that raised a good amount of money for both Roanoke County and Center in the Square. So that partnership was critical to putting that event on. And we had 43,000 people attend that event the first year. And the second year was COVID, and we still had 40,000, even with the restrictions that we had for COVID. So when you take that number of people and multiply that times the admission fee, you'll get an income stream, but then you need to look at your expenses. And then at the end of the day, hopefully you're ending up with the kind of a net profit that you were hoping for. Now with Blue Ridge Nightmares, we're lucky to have a 60,000 square foot facility where we can control the temperature and the weather inside that facility. And the same thing occurred with Blue Ridge Nightmares. We needed a certain income to operate Center in the Square. And with donations dropping off, we happened to have a gentleman who came to Roanoke who has experience in putting on scare events. So we said, well, let's go for it. So we did. And we're in our second weekend now, started tonight. First weekend, I think, was good for a brand new event in a remote location, 9th Street, 1910 9th Street Southeast, which is only 5 or 6 minutes from Center Square, amazingly, but it is not in Center Square. It's sort of like Explorer Park was not here. So we overcome the distance issue with just marketing and advertising.
Okay, and I want to get to that in just a second, but obviously with any kind of fundraising event, you don't rely solely on ticket sales to make it happen. You're also having to rely on sponsors. And I can't imagine the expenses that you've incurred to put on Blue Ridge Nightmares, especially with engaging with this Hollywood level talent who's come in to create the whole experience. So Tara, what role did sponsorships have with the overall budget of the event?
Oh, sure. Like with any large event, Illuminite's included in that. We love obviously having sponsors get involved in this. And when we create something, we think about what's interesting to the community, what's interesting to other folks who might want to partake in the event. And it becomes, I think personally, an easier sell for a sponsor to jump into the new exciting zingy thing that you're doing, rather than always knocking on people's doors for money to keep the lights on. That's maybe not as sexy as some of the other things that we're doing. But having sponsors does help us tremendously. That's less money that we have to pull from our own savings, which of course are needed to do things like keep the lights on and whatnot. So if we can keep our money for our operational day-to-day purposes and instead get sponsors to help us pay the expenses of a particular event, that's super duper helpful. So this one in particular, I think has been really fun to find sponsors for. Halloween, it's exciting, I think, for a lot of us. Holidays, that's great. Holidays are an exciting time that family and friends can get together and make new memories. So Halloween, this was an interesting time to create what Anthony has made, which is an indoor downtown Roanoke kind of apocalyptic street scene. So that's a cool opportunity to knock on other sponsors' doors and say, hey, would you like to see your business reinvented as this like Hollywood different quality type of event? You can see your business like a horror show almost, just a different take on your own business. So it's been very helpful and an interesting and I think cool thing to sell.
Lovely. So the sponsors I've seen so far, you have Grand Home Furnishings as the overall event sponsor. And then you have the, I guess the introductory video that people have to watch before they go in. That's by Charles Lunsford.
That's right. Yeah, Lunsford. And there is a little insurance building inside as well. But yeah,
Okay.
we did also sponsor the video. And then the Hotel Roanoke, which honestly, Brian Wells from the Hotel Roanoke, fabulous. He and I talked quite a bit about it. And that really made the inside street scene become downtown Roanoke. A lot of the street scene before, it could have been in any downtown anywhere and it still would have been cool and great. But we all know Hotel Roanoke, it's so iconic and goodness gracious, probably really haunted as it is. So go ahead and throw it in here, but it made the downtown indoor street scene that we're creating really come to life as downtown Roanoke. And it kind of like changed the facade structure too. It's sticking out differently. It's more three-dimensional. I just think it's a fabulous addition. So Hotel Roanoke is another one. And then WSLS is also sponsoring a matinee day. So we have a more, kid-friendly, but honestly, just a lot of adults would, I think, prefer to go through and see more of the behind the scenes, kind of what is it? Right. What's the making of it? I don't really want to get so scared kind of scene. So on weekends, we do that from 4 to 6, and WSLS is sponsoring October 16th, the WSLS day at the matinee. And we're going to do something special for kids that day who dress up in costume. They'll get to spin a prize wheel that day.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Are you comfortable sharing kind of the overall budget, what budgets you have carved out just to be covered by sponsors? And I'm really asking that to hopefully help other nonprofits as they go about determining, a budget for their event. How much are you factoring sponsorships to cover?
Well, we like for sponsorship dollars to cover everything, but in this case, it's a little bit tougher to sell a scare event than it is a nice, cute little Easter bunny type event. A lot of people don't want to be involved in the scare event, but it's turned out that it's worked real well. We didn't mention Grand Home Furnishings in Tara's presentation, but they stepped right up, and one of their owners, one of their vice presidents, maybe his president, likes that particular event, so they invested in it pretty heavily. So we had a budget of about $350,000, and we were hoping that we'd come under that budget. I'm not sure that we're going to. That includes the personnel and the materials, the rent and everything. So, I would be looking at sponsors to cover about 150,000 of that.
And with a lot of events of this size that we're going to do, multiple times, multiple years, the infrastructure is, that's the heavy part of the lifting. That's where a huge amount of the dollars are spent. It won't necessarily be that we have to spend $350,000 every year. The huge sets are built now. We can tweak them here and there for different holidays, but it's not that $350,000 is what we have to spend every year.
Yeah, right. Let me ask you this: did you set a marketing budget as part of this overall budget? Did you say going into it, all right, we are going to spend 10% or whatever, a percentage amount or a dollar amount to promote the event? And I ask that because I have been a part of organizations that have spent so much time creating this awesome experience, right? And then they're just shocked when no one actually signs up to participate in this awesome experience, only to discover that they really didn't promote it at all, other than maybe a couple of flyers. And so, what kind of marketing did you put in for this event?
I was laughing when you were saying about the marketing budget, because I think we're probably on our third or fourth marketing budget, because you may have a certain idea of what's going to work in the dollar amount. And then it's like, okay, yeah, we might also need to do X, Y, and Z as well as time goes on. And I would just give the advice that don't be too rigid. Don't think that one idea is the right idea and that's the only thing that's going to work. Monitor it and see if that is working. And then if there's still time, maneuver a little bit. And like I said, we've had to step maybe 3 or 4 times.
Marketing is not heavy in terms of cost for this event because it is a first time event, and we have good marketing partners that we've built over the years, and they're stepping up and offering marketing at a reduced rate or even free marketing, which is what we need on this kind of event. I think probably by the end of this, we'll have spent $15,000 on marketing.
Okay.
We were talking about marketing yesterday. We were talking about marketing this morning because we aren't sure what marketing works to the customer for a scare event. Mm-hmm. If it's a traditional museum exhibit, we have a better idea. But on this, we're just sort of shotgunning marketing and spending small amounts of money in different areas and monitoring that to see if it actually works. Mm-hmm. But again, I want to thank all of our sponsors because, and that includes the marketing sponsors.
Right. Well, it may be the kind of thing where, the closer you get to Halloween, the more enthusiasm and momentum you'll have for people wanting to participate in the event. Well, and to that point, when it comes to ticket sales, is there a break-even number as far as ticket sales that you guys are, hopeful to make in order to make this a fundraiser?
About 20,000. What a very good event is 30,000.
Okay.
But we're looking at break even.
Right.
And so if we can break even on this one event, then the future events will make money on because we don't have all that construction cost up front. We just modify the venues to some extent and go with a Valentine's event, for example. And next year we'll have more than that. We have decided on all the events that we're going to have, but we're also going to rent out the space, and we're trying to recruit some movie folks in to see if they can use the facades for the next movie that they're looking at. And we have about 3 production companies looking at us. So we're going in several directions with it.
Lovely, lovely. Well, let me give you the opportunity to plug this event one more time for anyone tuning into this show, and also where they would need to go to get tickets.
Blue Ridge Nightmares, it's such a unique, Hollywood quality style set that you will discover. It's a 60,000 square foot warehouse that we have rented out that has been converted into an apocalyptic mini downtown Roanoke street scene. There are around 30 actors inside of there ready to welcome you in their own special way into their haunted environment. And there's a lot of unique scares inside the different rooms. each room has something specific that I think Anthony has done a beautiful job creating, shocking, frightening scenes because of his background. It's just so detailed. As you know, he's worked in Hollywood, special effects, makeup artist, New York. It's amazing. His background is fantastic. So you might see things in here that you've never seen before. So I would say expect the unexpected inside of there and get ready for a really awesome, interesting time. Tickets are on sale on Center in the Square's website, centerinthesquare.org. And I encourage you to look at us on Facebook and be ready to see some new interesting photos popping up on Center in the Square's Facebook page.
And that's centerinthesquare.org. Thank you guys both so much. I can't wait to take my family through the event. I may go for the matinee hours myself, but again, thank y'all so much for bringing this awesome experience to our region, and we look forward to being part of it. Yeah, so Carrie, are you into haunted houses?
Really, I'm a little bit of a fraidy cat. I like the haunted houses that are like the kids do them so that I don't get the bejesus scared out of me.
I get the feeling that this Blue Ridge Nightmares is going to scare the bejesus out of you.
I have a feeling I get to stand in the parking lot and watch people come out, and that will be the height of it for me. Yes, yes.
So if you're interested in that, that is happening every weekend in October. Go to centerinthesquare.org. Tickets, I believe, are $20 a person. And it seems like it's a
spooktacular good time.
Oh, we love the puns. All righty. So as an FYI, for links on all of these events, please check out our website, buzz4good.com, as well as go to @Buzz4Good on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. At this time, I'd also like to invite area businesses to be a sponsor of our show and even be featured regularly on the show, and then enjoy the buzz that you would get for supporting the vital work that nonprofits do in our communities.
For instance, I want to thank Jim Pearman, co-founder and co-owner of Partners in Financial Planning. Not only does Partners in Financial Planning provide clients with a comprehensive, fee-only financial plan tailored to their unique life stages and goals, Jim Pearman is among our region's most philanthropic leaders, serving on the boards of Feeding Southwest Virginia, Eastmont Community Foundation, Virginia Tech Hokie Club, and Virginia Tech's Pamplin College of Business, and on and on. To find out more about Jim and his Southwest Virginia-based management firm, please visit partnersinfinancialplanning.com.
So I would invite you to go to our website, buzz4good.com, and check out the sponsorships page to see how you can get more buzz by supporting Buzz. And now, Carrie.
So let's talk social media advertising. The first thing you think of when you think social media advertising is, what's this going to cost me?
Indeed, right.
And for most folks, it's a little bit scary, right?
Yeah.
But social media advertising doesn't have to come with a big budget. It can come with a small budget. Almost any budget can actually work.
Which is good for nonprofits, because nonprofits typically don't have a big budget and they're wondering where to spend it, and they feel like they're supposed to do something on social media, but what?
The best thing you can do is be consistent.
Okay.
Figure out what budget you do have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have $1,000 to spend this year.
The entire year.
The entire year.
We're not talking about the month.
We are not talking about this month.
Okay.
Let's talk about this year.
Mm-hmm.
You've somehow got $1,000 to spend this year. Break that up into 12-month chunks.
Okay.
So you're talking now $85-ish a month.
Mm-hmm.
Spread that out over the course of a month, each month, and be consistent. Social media algorithms, social media ad buys love the consistency of you doing the same thing all the time.
Okay.
Don't go out tomorrow and take that $1,000 and spend it all in 2 weeks.
Right.
Because you're not going to get long-term bang for your buck there. You're going to get a quick boost in the algorithm. You might get a few quick leads this week, and then your page is going to fall flat again. But create some consistency. The second thing to do with that budget is create a goal.
Okay.
What do I want as a return on my budget? It might be ticket sales. Let's look at the Blue Ridge Nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
If you were advertising that event, I would take my money and put it on ads that return ticket sales. so that I'm getting something back. The other thing you might say as a nonprofit is, okay, good return on my budget spend is to get more followers. So more people see my content, see my page, follow my account. So think about that before you just start boosting posts. You know, the catch-all on Facebook is just boost that post. But what's the goal behind it? What are people supposed to do when they see that ad? And you can get a lot more bang for a lot less buck if you set goals.
Well, Facebook makes it so easy for you just to boost the post because they're
Click
telling
that
you
blue
all
button.
the time to boost it, boost it, boost it. But so if you want to do that though, then gives you some options, right? As far as, you know, where do you want to drive traffic to?
So thinking about your target audience, right? Let's go back to those goals. Not only do we want to have ticket sales or we want to increase followers, but you probably want them to be a certain type of person that matches your core donor base, the core person who comes to one of your events, or maybe you just want them to be local. So when you boost that post, don't just hit the boost button and let all the default settings run and hit OK, because it's no telling who might see that ad. Play with those settings. Start with local audience. Where do you want your ad to show?
Because you can put a kind of a geographic boundary around.
You can have a very distinct geographic boundary. So if I'm sitting here in Roanoke and I want only people in Roanoke to see my ad, I can say Roanoke plus 10 miles. But say I want more of the state to see my ad. I could pick Roanoke, Richmond, and Hampton Roads and let all of those people see it. So really think about who your core audience is, where are they, and start with geography.
From geography, where would you then go?
Interest.
Okay.
So
Not age or gender necessarily?
I would probably start with interest,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Because
So you've
not
got-
everybody has a perfect picture of their target demographic, and your age or your gender might not match. But your interest probably will. It's hard to hide your
True.
interest.
Right.
So if I'm someone on Facebook who's constantly clicking on shoes, and your nonprofit is going to have some sort of shoe-based fundraiser, all of a sudden, I might not have fit any of your other demographic profiles, but because I've got an interest in shoes, it's going to catch me. I'm a new person for you. So that's where that interest really comes into play.
Or going back to the Blue Ridge Nightmares. Let's say some of your favorite movies that you've identified.
Nightmare on Elm
Facebook,
Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween,
All of
Friday
a
the
sudden,
13th.
it connects.
Gotcha.
So you're really looking to widen your net a little bit with interest because you'll catch people that you might not know you would catch. If you only pick those obvious demographics, gender, age, and location. Like I love location, but it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
Interest really helps hone that in some. And pay attention to interest as more than just exactly what you're doing. Think beyond it. So if I'm a nonprofit, I am probably always doing an interest in philanthropy.
Right.
Even if it's not necessarily donor based that I'm advertising for, if I'm advertising an event or whatnot, but those people are interested in causes. Make sure you catch them in your net.
Okay. Okay. Now, are we specifically talking about just Facebook here with the social media advertising, or does this carry through on other platforms?
It pretty much carries through. So you may or may not know that Facebook and Instagram are the same company. So if you're advertising on Instagram, you're actually initiating those ads through Facebook.
Okay.
You can actually do them in one click. So you can take your budget for Facebook and actually split it between Facebook and Instagram at the same time.
Okay.
Nice and easy, right? Not only are you saving budget, but you're saving time, which at the end of the day, if you're a nonprofit or you're working alone, it's vitally important. Twitter's a little different. It has its own ad platform, and LinkedIn has its own ad platform, but the same targeting and rules apply.
Okay. Is there one that is more, I always think of Facebook when I think about boosting a post or advertising, which I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg, that just pleases him to no end. But is that still kind of the go-to when it comes to a nonprofit advertising on a social media platform?
It really depends on your core audience.
Okay.
The For the most part, we know that people donating to nonprofits are probably not in the younger demographic sets. So they're probably on Facebook. If it's event driven though, if you're looking for volunteers, you might actually be better off on Instagram because it's a younger demographic. And a lot of those we know, especially in this area, I think students at Virginia Western get credits for volunteerism.
Sure.
So getting in front of that younger audience who potentially could volunteer, who probably aren't on Facebook, but they are on Instagram, could be a huge bonus. So think about who you're looking for.
I actually attended a little fundraising event after hours at a downtown Roanoke business last month. The business was doing was Chocolate Paper was doing a fundraising event for a local nonprofit, and two of the people who came, there were only about 15 people in all because it was meant to be small, but two people who showed up came because they saw it on Instagram. And I would have never have advertised on Instagram, but actually the Chocolate Paper's owner did that. And here they were and had no connection at all to Chocolate Paper or the nonprofit that was being helped. And there they were.
They cast the right net.
Yeah, right, exactly. So fantastic. Sometimes it seems as though when you boost a post, like you as an individual nonprofit boost a post, it's not going to go to all the places on Facebook that you might if you instead engaged with a professional marketing person. Is that correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
As an individual, you have all of the tools in your Facebook account as long as it is a business account that we have available in a marketing organization. Now, how you use those tools can be different. Whether you have a business manager account in Facebook can impact use of those tools. But the biggest thing that impacts those tools is how many followers you actually have on your Facebook account. As your account grows, Facebook unlocks options and availability of options.
Okay.
So an account with 25 followers won't have the same access to tools as an account with 2,500 followers.
Interesting. Okay. So how would you as a nonprofit leader navigate that?
Slow growth.
Okay.
Don't go out and buy followers. That is not the recommendation here. But we talked about some things in our last episode. Invite all your friends to follow your page.
Right.
Share it naturally, offer a promotion or an award or a discount or something for your fans. Turn on your top fan badges. It sounds really simple, but Facebook has a little feature where the people who comment and click on and do things on your page the most get a badge that says, I'm a top fan of Buzz4Good.
Oh, nice.
It's a game,
Right.
but people want to win the game. So they try to get those top fan badges. So engage your people.
Okay.
And the more of them you can get on your page, the better.
Okay. Well, wonderful.
Awesome.
Speaking of all of your great marketing skills, one of the other ones is website design, which we discussed last week and it featured on Buzz, the TV show, when you helped Southwest Virginia Ballet. And after our episode last week, I decided, let me check in with Southwest Virginia Ballet's Executive Director, Carol Jesse, and Artistic Director, Pedro Zelai, just to see how they have used all of your great work on their website over the past year. And here's that conversation.
I would say it's kind of funny when I got your email about this. I started trying to remember what our old site looked like. And I have been able to, thankfully, kind of push it out of my mind. We're so grateful for the opportunity that you provided for us to have this beautiful website now that we are just drawing people to more and more and more and finding out new and different ways of providing information and having people use it. It's really, I honestly don't remember what our old site was like.
Yeah, I recall, Carol. Well, first of all, I think it's probably a good thing that we've all forgotten what the website did look like. I mean, it's kind of like having some flashbacks, you know, well, PTSD, because it was in some pretty sad shape. And I remember you saying on the show that there was a time when you were kind of almost embarrassed to draw people's attention to your website because it was not really reflective of the organization that y'all have built. What are you guys doing right now for the rest of 2021?
Working hard.
Well, like I said before, and because you're a big part of our Roanoke Children Choir, Michael, we are performing with them at November, and they're performing in our Nutcracker. We are going to be part of the stock market. We are performing at the stock market to support the Junior League, because that's a huge other nonprofit to help the nonprofit in the community. So we helping them to promote, they're helping us to promote the Nutcracker, and we help them to promote the Junior League. And we are November 16, we're performing at the Moss Art Center, an education program for the schools. Yes, sir, the Moss Art Center. And in May 2022, we are performing Ties, Marrero Ballet at Enwood Park, and David Austin is going to perform live. Yeah.
Wonderful. Busy.
Yeah, and Dance Espanol, of course, with my fourth graders. Hopefully, I'm collaborating with the Tubman Museum, and we are hopefully we able to do final performance in the 8th of March.
Lovely.
We're just assuming that everyone knows about the Nutcracker, December 11th
Yes.
and 12th at the Berglund Center. Tickets available at svballet.org.
Yeah.
All right, so December the 11th, we're live and in person this year at the Berglund Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right?
And come to see the four-legged friend from Angels of the Sisi and the beautiful voice of the Roanoke Children Choir, of course, the dancers too, the talented dancers. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't think that there's another nonprofit in town that is as collaborative as you guys are. I mean, you've already mentioned just in the course of this conversation, the Roanoke Valley Children's Choir, the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra. I know you've also done some work with Opera Roanoke. You've mentioned the Tallman Museum. You've mentioned the Angels of Assisi?
Angels, that's correct. Angels of Assisi. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So just phenomenal work. You guys are, and then not to mention Roanoke City Public Schools and the fourth graders with Dance Espanol. So.
Yeah, and Owen Winston link this year because with Ties, because I engaged the Owen Winston photograph in the production, and in the Virginia Transportation Museum too.
Wow. You do it all. Well,
Takes a village, Mike.
Exactly. Mike, it's, if we don't work together like we did with you and Carrie and Mike, we work sprints, we're not able to do what we do now, and that's the only way. And I say my phrase again, my dad always say, to build Egypt is no one person, it's a lot of people, and that's what we do. We work together, we stay together, we fight together, but we're still working together. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all again for your willingness to be my guinea pigs on the show, the TV show last year, for being my guinea pigs this year for our new Buzz4Good TV and radio show. Y'all are an absolute joy to work with. I'm glad that we were able to help give you guys just a little more buzz, but you're creating a lot of it on your own as it is, but with these website and all these other marketing tools that you guys are able to do just more and better. So thank you all so much again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Big hug.
Back at you. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Just to kind of bring everything full circle for Southwest Virginia Ballet, last year, the new website really helped them launch their virtual version of the Nutcracker, which aired on Blue Ridge PBS. This year, the production is going to be live again.
Excellent.
Tickets are on sale on their website. So make sure to check that out.
Which I don't think they were able to sell tickets on their website prior to you.
They weren't. The new website made that possible.
Excellent. Well, bravo again. All right. Well, speaking of last week on Buzz4Good, we started a conversation that we intend to keep on going throughout this show with Abby Hamilton, who's the executive director of United Way of the Roanoke Valley. So last week, Abby was sharing with us information about the kind of a tale of two cities, and how depending on where you were born within Roanoke determines so much of your life. It was really scary how if you were born in one zip code versus another zip code, not even 5 miles away, your life expectancy was going to vary by about 14 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, if you were born in this one zip code, your life expectancy was about 84 years old. Another zip code, your life expectancy was 70 years old. And not to mention the quality of life that you were going to experience during your time here. So I mean, it was astonishing what she shared with us, but also she talked about how United Way and a lot of the area nonprofits are working to address that. So this week, she continues that theme with an in-depth discussion of Alice. And I didn't know what Alice was prior to having a conversation with her. What is Alice? Find out here.
Awesome. Yeah, but loved it. This is a great continuation of that conversation because ALICE is actually an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. And it's really a new way of defining who is struggling in our community. So throw away your normal notions of what poverty looks like, of they have to be destitute, they have to be out on the streets, they're not working or whatever, because ALICE really means that people can be working sometimes 2 or more jobs and still not make ends meet. That's kind of like, again, the mind-blowing thing of, you know, you can be working and working really hard, but you are one paycheck away or one emergency away from having things fall apart on you.
And is that a result of, I mean, obviously having jobs that don't pay enough, but is that typically a result of life circumstance, lack of education? You know, what are the factors going into that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it certainly is related to our previous conversation, because you're right. It's sometimes it's a cause and it's an effect, right? Because your level of education will then dictate what your income might be and the opportunities that you have. And when you do that, then if you're Alice, you're in this pocket, you are then forced to make decisions about what can I afford in terms of housing? What can I afford in terms of childcare or after school care? What food can I buy with the limited income that I have, which then affects everything else in that picture.
Right. So how did you come up with the name Alice?
Well, I wish we could claim that we came up with it. This was actually a term that started in New Jersey many years ago, and it was really meant to kind of help have a better measure that was across states that would be more accurate and essentially reflecting like real cost of living. So if you think about the federal poverty rate, or FPL, which is how we traditionally measure what poverty looks like and what struggling families look like, that was developed in the 1970s, right? The weakness of that is, one, it's super old. Number two, it doesn't take into account that each locality might have a different cost of living, right? It's not updated to those different things. And so Alice was developed within New Jersey, first in that state, to kind of help define who's struggling. And so it's looking at the cheapest that you can live within a given locality. So now you have data that's specific to each locality and what it will take to actually even meet that threshold. So it's a very, very useful guide for those of us that are in the social service field, to kind of have a better picture of what the type of population, the extent at which the problem exists, and ways that we can really be strategic about solving some of these interconnected issues.
You know, from my vantage point, when I see that Alice is actually in your organization's name, you know, for all intents and purposes, I mean, this really defines what United Way does, right?
Yes.
So talk a little bit about how the United Way of the Roanoke Valley is working on Alice.
Right. So if you think about, I'm going to start by saying, you know, our mission and our vision as United Way is to elevate families to self-sufficiency. We want to be able to do that. And so in order for us to do that, we need to kind of look at the bands, right? Which are the people that are closest to that and also the most vulnerable in terms of the farthest away from that goal. And so if you think about the overall numbers within our region, we know that if you look at folks that are in poverty, in addition to the folks that are working and then fall in this ATLAS category, that is actually a combined percentage of over like about 45%. So if you think about everybody here in the entire Roanoke Valley, and almost half of us are day to day struggling and have financial struggle, that's really kind of a big lift.
Wow.
Right. So it does inform the work that United Way does in terms of how do we then strategically form partnerships with nonprofits, with local government, with school systems, to provide the kinds of supports that folks in poverty and our ALICE households can access to make up for the fact that they don't have enough income to access these services. So for instance, I'm gonna pick an example of an issue. So in this past year, right, we know that among those that were impacted by the pandemic are also ALICE households. They might be working as childcare providers. They were the ones that were in the front lines: grocery store workers, restaurant workers, those in the hospitality business, childcare providers that had to continue to function in the middle of the pandemic, probably did not have the option of working from home.
Right.
So in order to kind of make ends meet. And so one of the things that United Way did was, when we did our COVID response fund and fundraised for that, we worked with partners and also with local government to make sure that we expanded eligibility so that it was not confined to just households that would typically receive support, right? Like the ones that were in the federal poverty, but also ALICE households that were working that might have been impacted by loss of hours or did not have the benefits to kind of keep themselves healthy and whole.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to do childcare or wait tables by Zoom. You've got to actually be there.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know, I loved how you began the answer to your question. This is just as an aside, but I think it's a lesson for all nonprofits. You know, I asked the question, so how is United Way addressing this? And your response, if you recall, was, well, according to our mission statement. And, your mission statement drives everything that a nonprofit should do. And so I love how you began that. And I would encourage anyone, just as an aside, any nonprofit that maybe has not taken a look at their mission statement, or heaven forbid, not actually have a mission statement, to go back to that, because that really keeps you grounded and focused, with the work that you're trying to do. So bravo.
Yay.
What are some of the nonprofits that you are working with to engage in this space?
There's a fascinating thing. When we did a survey this past spring, it's a regional survey, and we asked people how they were impacted by the pandemic. We had about 2,800 respondents.
Wow. What
we found out was one of the top concerns and needs that a lot of people expressed was around mental health. Not surprising, right? Because all of us kind of got impacted by that. And I think that that issue was universal, whether or not you fell in this category of ALICE or whether or not you were above that threshold.
Right.
So it was something that everybody felt was important. And so what we've done around that issue itself are several things. One, as a group of committed nonprofits within an umbrella called Healthy Roanoke Valley that's housed at United Way. There's about 40 of these different organizations that work together on a mental health awareness campaign, essentially saying and normalizing the fact that everything is weird. This is hard. Living and functioning within a pandemic is hard, and it's okay if you're having a hard time, and it's okay to seek help, right? So one, normalizing the fact that help is needed and we need each other to kind of make it through these tough times is one of the most important things that we ended up doing as nonprofit partners. Second, if we're going to encourage people to go seek help, we need to make sure that that help is accessible. And so we ended up working with partners like New Horizons, Family Services, Bradley Free Clinic, and other mental health providers, so that that care could be accessible for people, especially during the height of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And then one of the other things that we attempted to answer is, how do we make access easier and more universal for people as they're seeking help? So on top of funding the actual service, what we worked out with partners like the school system and the city of Roanoke, Carilion, Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare, really the major partners that are providing mental health services here in the area, is how do we create a line, a helpline that people can call, and from there be directed and set up an appointment to one of these services, so that it really, that eliminates the need to kind of help the navigation, what do I qualify for, and all of that stuff, where you have a single line that people can call to be connected to mental health services. And so we have that up and running now, with the help of all of these different partners.
Wow. And is that within the United Way?
This is actually a community project, right? Like, so United Way was part of that. What we ended up doing was to help fund the infrastructure for that to be able to happen. And these partners, who already, some have existing funding from state or federal sources, or some self-pay, right? That they have these services already available. And it's, how do we make it easier for people to find these services and be connected to them?
Right. So if I'm calling this helpline, where's my call going to?
The call is getting is being directed to a what is this? Like an operator, essentially, an operator that's housed essentially at Carilion, and that Carilion person then has the directory of all of the partners providing mental health and self-services in the area, and then we'll be able to plug that in based on what you might be needing and what you might be qualifying for.
Gotcha. So Carilion Clinic is another partner in this effort.
Definitely, yes.
Okay. Nice. Wow. Well, so someone who's maybe listening or watching this conversation, and they've heard about the Tale of the Two Cities, and they're hearing about Alice, and they want to do something to help. What should they do?
Well, like I said earlier when we started this conversation, that being able to elevate Alice and the families that are struggling within the Roanoke Valley, providing them the foundation to be able to be self-sufficient, is core to United Way's mission. And we don't get that done without partnerships, strong partnerships around the community. And certainly we would love the support of this entire community in whatever form, financial level that they can, to be able to support United Way's work to be able to do that. Because it's going to take all of us, right, to be able to change a lot of these systems and provide services that are interrelated, because when families need something, it's going to manifest in several different needs all at the same time.
So is the way that they would go to support that just through your website?
We'd love for you to come to our website, uwrv.org. And I believe there's also other ways that you can give when you get there, by check, online, or other ways too. Make it easier for you.
And is it all going to your general operation, or is there some way that people who feel strongly about mental health, for instance, or economic disparities, could they focus their funding directly to that?
Yes, so there are different ways. So when you see on our website that you're supporting the impact fund, that is exactly what you get to do, is to impact some of these issues. And certainly if you want to specify certain issues that you feel strongly about, whether or not it's employment, or children's success, or health, you can certainly write that in as well.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, I know those are oftentimes the specific goals that a donor would like to contribute to. At the same time, general operating support is always appreciated, if not more so, because it allows the nonprofit who is most skilled and knowledgeable in all these areas to be able to designate the funding appropriately to meet the biggest needs. So once again, that is uwrv.org. So
Yes.
please head there to support United Way. Abby, thank you so much again for making the time available to us here on Buzz for Good. And we will look forward to checking in with you next time on our next show. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to thank Abby and United Way of Roanoke Valley again for all of their work, helping us build a stronger community for all citizens here, regardless of which zip code you were born in and live in. So we look forward to continuing our conversation with Abby in the weeks to come. And now, back to No Budget Marketing Minute. And I think about this and what we're going to discuss here for No Budget Marketing Minute, because I find for Buzz4Good, it's a good opportunity as any to say, you know, you can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, all at Buzz4Good, not to mention our website, buzz4good.com. But that's a lot of social media channels to maintain. And sometimes I feel as though I'm really doing them justice. And that's kind of the theme of today's.
And that's exactly it. The theme of today's No Budget Marketing Minute is to look at your social media channels and dump one. One of them probably isn't working for you. You probably named all those off. You could probably go through right now and know which one is doing the least amount of work for you.
Twitter.
That's usually the one.
Right. But we feel like because it's one of the oldest, we've got to have a voice on Twitter.
I mean, what I tell most nonprofits at this point in time is unless you're a news organization or an athlete, you're probably not getting much traction on Twitter.
Right.
It's an easy one to dump.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get your time back.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
So there's kind of what I would guess describe as an addition by subtraction here. You're able to focus more on the platforms that actually work.
Mm-hmm. Take those 20 minutes you were spending on Twitter every day, put them on something that you're really working on. Reinvest in LinkedIn. If that's working for you, give it a little more time. Reinvest in Facebook. If Facebook is working for you, take that little bit of extra effort and post one more time a week on Facebook. And it'll make all the difference.
Okay. But I feel like I've worked hard with Twitter, even though I, by far have the fewest followers.
It's a sunk cost. Let it go.
Okay. All right. So get rid of one of your social media channels that's not working for you. And inevitably, what you're saying is that most every nonprofit has some social media channel that is not working.
Almost everyone does. And you know it's not working for you if follower growth is stagnant or hasn't changed in a long time, or if no one is interacting. So if you're posting to Twitter 6 times a week and you only got 1 reply, it's probably not working.
Okay. All right. It's tough to admit defeat sometimes.
It really is tough to admit defeat, but think what you can do when you get that time back.
Right. Another time I want us to talk about, because I find myself posting basically the same content on every platform, just in case I've missed somebody on Facebook or LinkedIn. Maybe I'll grab them on Instagram. But
that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, it's another conversation. We'll do that another time. Okay, all right. And one last time, I would invite listeners and viewers to reach out to us through our website, buzz4good.com, and on our social media at Buzz4Good, and let us know what you think of our show. What do you think about the topics that we have covered and the topics that you would like for us to cover, as well as any questions you may have, especially about the marketing challenges that your nonprofit faces, because we want to help you get more buzz for your organization so that you can continue to provide the services that are vital to our communities. And so please share that with us, reach out to us, and then we will try to cover those in upcoming episodes. And until then,
keep buzzing, keep being a buzz for good in our communities, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Buzz for Good.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.